everyone. I'm Matt Bove, Channel 7 Sports Director, and I am joining you at 9:39 a.m. on a Monday morning, January 19th, and I am legitimately stunned that the Buffalo Bills have decided to fire Sean McDermott. Brandon Beane, their general manager, is being retained. He will lead the search for this team's next head coach. I have confirmed that news with a league source. It was first reported, I believe, by NFL Network or ESPN. Sean McDermott is out. Brandon Beane is staying in. For the first time in a long time since 2017, the Buffalo Bills will be searching for a new head coach. I have said so many times over the last several weeks, anytime Sean McDermott's name was brought up as somebody being on the hot seat, I was like, I just don't see it. I do not think that this team would pull the trigger on a move that brash for somebody who has consistently raised the floor for the Buffalo Bills for a long, long time. But they did. I was wrong. And clearly, they thought Sean McDermott had far too many opportunities to get this team over the hump, and they never were able to ultimately get it done. I have so many different things that are running through my mind right now. There's so many different things that we can talk about. We'll shift our focus to candidates and who could replace Sean McDermott and the power struggle between Beane and McDermott, and if it's the right decision for him to Beane to stay and McDermott to leave. We will get to all of that at some point. But right now, I just can't believe they did it. I think they were fed up. I wonder if the Patriots kind of leapfrogging them in the AFC East and advancing to an AFC title game 1 year after being the worst team in football sparked this. Ed, hello, you're back.
Hi, Bove. Sorry about that.
You're good. You sounded like, so I'm on so little sleep from traveling. So I was like, maybe I'm just like really jet lagged or you're doing this underwater. So it's good that you're back and now you sound normal.
Well, I am happy to be here with you for what is a major breaking story in terms of sports here in Buffalo. You know, you were mentioning it, the sheer and utter shock.
Dude.
When you talk about Sean McDermott being fired, I mean, when you consider where he falls in the level of the front office, I mean, this seems to be a bizarre decision.
Let me tell you, for just straight context, 25 minutes ago, I was recording my podcast. I'm a co-host with Sal Capaccio. We were recording the podcast, and we were talking about how we thought Sean McDermott's job was safe and that Brandon Beane's seat was warmer than Sean McDermott's. And 30 seconds later, it's like the universe was laughing at us. I saw the notification on my phone that Sean McDermott has been fired. I do not think, as far as people to blame this season, I don't think Sean McDermott is very high on the list. I think he deserves some responsibility for sure. And I think in the grand scheme of things, him not being able to ever get over the hump is ultimately what cost him his job. I think it's a big picture thing. I think he was fired because of his entire resume, not just because of this year. But I also think this roster kind of stunk.
Well, okay, so isn't that a Brandon Beane issue also? I mean, is he next?
It doesn't seem like it. I mean, I've gotten the confirmation from a league source that Brandon Beane will lead the search for the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills. So if he is leading the search, that means he's sticking around and he's going to be the guy who ultimately finds Sean McDermott's replacement. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the sentiment right now on social media. And obviously, social media is just kind of one element of it. But it seems like a lot of people are like, I would support this move if it also meant Brandon Beane was out and they were completely starting over. But that's not what's happening. Brandon Beane is staying and Sean McDermott is starting over. So, yeah, I mean, it has felt like we were going to reach a boiling point soon with both of these, with Sean McDermott and with Brandon Beane, and it was always who was going to outlast the other. I never thought it would be Beane outlasting Sean. I always thought it was going to be, because it's also important to remember Sean McDermott was hired first.
Right.
Sean McDermott was hired, and then like 4 months later, they brought in Brandon Beane because the two of them had a relationship in Carolina, and they have worked together for years. And I'll say, I think for a long time, that relationship was very solid, but I have heard from so many different people on and off the record over the years that it has not always been kumbaya ever since then. And it always felt like there was a little bit of jockeying of like who was going to stay, who was going to go, who was more at fault for all of these shortcomings. And Brandon Beane was the one who ultimately outlasted Sean. So
okay, so two things really quick. So I was going to bring up the point that they had a relationship here. If it's Brandon Beane bringing Sean McDermott into the office, what is that conversation?
I don't think it was. I think it would be. I think this was a Terry Pagula ultimate decision, and
Really?
for sure. I don't think Sean didn't report to Brandon. It was not like a hierarchy that was Terry, Brandon, Sean. It was Sean and Brandon both kind of reporting to Terry, and I think that. Listen, Terry Pagula is a very loyal person, and sometimes to a fault. You just see what he has done with his other organizations, with the Buffalo Sabres. The fact that the Buffalo Sabres were able to be this irrelevant for this long until they finally made a move with their general manager, Kevin Adams, just a few months ago, that to me was always the evidence of like, why would we expect something to happen? Look what he has done with his other organization that has had so little success over these last couple of years. I think Terry, though, is probably livid. I think he feels the same way that a lot of fans feel of like, what else are we supposed to do? You've had Josh Allen, and we still aren't able to win it all. Like Josh Allen, you could make the argument is he is one of the best players in the NFL. I am like, I don't want to overemphasize this. I am stunned that this happened.
Okay, so
Stunned.
let me ask you this: so knowing the way you feel about this, and knowing how you did not expect this by any means, doesn't Brandon Beane shoulder some of that blame here, especially when it comes to trade deadlines, especially when it comes to not bringing anyone on board and like packing the roster to help Josh Allen?
Yes, I think so. I think this team was not very good. I think this team was flawed. This is the easiest way I can kind of summarize all of this, because you could do an entire thesis on this, and we have an insane amount of comments, so we should definitely start to get to some of the comments. Here's what I'll say. I think Sean McDermott has done a very good job of raising the floor for the Buffalo Bills for a long, long time, getting this team just into the playoffs and keeping them very competitive. I think that is maybe the most admirable thing that Sean McDermott has done. I think this is an indictment that Terry Pagula does not believe he can ultimately get them over the hump. There's something to be said about getting a team to the playoffs, to their floor, but not being able to get it to the championship, to a Super Bowl. I think they have thought it's almost one of those most overused things that happens in local news and with reporting is when somebody finds the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again. And it's like everybody has had that in a story at some point. It feels like for the Bills, it's been a little bit of that. They get into the playoffs, they win a game, then they get bounced a week later, or they get bounced 2 weeks later, and they've never been to a Super Bowl during this regime. It feels like they think if we haven't done it yet, we'll never do it. And this is their last chance at kind of salvaging Josh Allen's career while he is still in his prime. I mean, Josh Allen will be 30. Like, he is now reaching the point of his career where we're going to start the descend relatively soon. It's just as far as age is concerned. So I think they're like, okay, what if we do this now? Hopefully we have a couple of years of keeping this window open before we start to dip here.
So I saw overnight that Joe Brady interviewed with Baltimore and Miami. Is it possible, and this was one of the comments here that was coming in, and they're coming in fast and furious, and we want to share your voice here. Is it possible that the Bills hire Brady as the head coach?
It's possible, but I don't think probable. The name that immediately jumped out to me is Brian Daboll. And I don't necessarily know if that's the right move, if that's the smart move. What I can say is I know Brian Daboll and Josh Allen are incredibly close.
Right.
Oh, literally, right? Hayden right here. So Hayden's doing this. That's the first name that I thought of was Brian Daboll, because he is an offensive guy. That man loves this community and this city more than anybody I've ever met.
He's from here.
He's got the relationship with Josh. He's an offensive guy. He has tons of success. Things kind of flamed out when he was in New York, but I don't know how much of that is completely based on him. This is fascinating because the Bills are going to have to decide, what do they want to do? Do they want to go offense and lean into that side of the ball? Do they want to go defense and try and find like a young, snappy offensive coordinator? Here's the thing I'll say, though. If Sean is leaving, there is certainly a domino effect with Joe Brady. You know, if Joe Brady isn't the guy, I also think that's very likely he could be leaving to go somewhere else, to do something else. And then there's the same thing with the defensive court. There are thought things were going to calm down for a couple days. Certainly not. I was like, okay, we're going to ease back into life now that the season is done, and that is certainly not happening.
Well, one of the other comments that I saw earlier was that he got fired because he stood up to the NFL. He was really pissed after that obvious wrong call at the end of the game, but all kidding and speculation aside, I mean, is that a possibility here?
Well, there were people, I don't think he was fired because he came at the NFL, but I think there were people who thought that was him kind of jockeying his position to use it as leverage and show like, hey, look, I'm standing up for Buffalo. I'm fighting for Buffalo. I believe in this city. I believe in this team. And I'm going to be the guy that gets this done. Some people thought it was desperation on his part. I never did. I thought it was always just kind of like, hey, this is somebody who really, really cares. Now looking back at it, though, it's hard not to think that. And let me give you a little bit of perspective here, because this is I've never seen something like this happen before. The game ends on Saturday night, and we are all, running around like crazy. Our heads are spinning after what just happened. Sean McDermott finally gets to his press conference, and he makes the comments that he does, and they're very, very powerful, and they're strong. After that, usually the team gets on a bus, they head to the airport, and then they take off and they fly back to Buffalo. While they got back to the airport, Sean McDermott called Jay Skursky, a reporter for the Buffalo News, who is one of our pro football writers' heads. He kind of oversees this stuff, and Sean went on the record and just started going off about how basically the Bills got screwed, and that he had watched the play 20 times and he has no idea how that was the call, and that basically it was unfair how it was completely handled. Some people viewed that as desperation. I viewed that as like, this guy's fired up because he just lost and he blew a really great opportunity to get there. Maybe he realized how hot his seat was, and this was his last-ditch effort. Maybe he knew something that I did not know, of like, if we don't get it done, I might be done. So now that we have the perspective and the hindsight, maybe that's ultimately what happened. I'm just still so surprised that it's Sean and not Beane. If this was happening, I thought it was going to be Sean and Beane, not just Sean.
Let me ask you this, Matt. Realistically, we bring in a new head coach. Does that set us back?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that will be said about. Remember what I said about raising the floor? I think Sean McDermott raised the floor for this team so much. And I think that there's going to be growing pains and there's going to be different experiences now that this team is going to have to overcome. It's not necessarily a smooth ride. Sean McDermott has won a ton of games in this league. And I do think that this now is like, okay, maybe you take one step backwards before you take two steps forwards. And that's what they're banking on. Maybe Terry Pagula thinks Josh Allen is that good that I don't think we're going to regress, and anybody could come in here and have the same level of success that Sean McDermott was able to have. I think now to Sean McDermott, the person, just because this is somebody who I have had a relationship with, just as somebody covering him for a long, long time. Here's what I'll say. Sean McDermott fully embraced this community and wanted to win so bad for the city of Buffalo. The way he cared about this organization, the way he cared about this team was so poignant and powerful from day one. So I don't think that this is because of a lack of effort, a lack of caring, a lack of trying. I think he wanted to win so bad for this community, and the time just kind of ran out. The clock hit zero, and there was no time left. And it's just crazy to see the level of success they've had and them decide that this isn't good enough. Because I've always been one of those people who's like, you can go both ways. You can say you just need to be in the dance to have a chance, and however the chips fall, that's how they fall. Sometimes it's out of your control. I think the Bills think like, hey, if we had Mike Vrabel, we would already be to a Super Bowl, because Mike Vrabel gets to New England, and 1 year later, they're now going to an AFC championship with a great path to the Super Bowl.
But isn't it also about the people who are surrounding the quarterback? I mean, we're talking about two players from Buffalo who went to the Patriots. I mean, we're talking Matt Collins, we're talking Diggs, both studs. But here we are, and this is kind of to Michael's point. We need fresh blood to throw the ball to, not a new coach.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the roster has been good enough. I don't think the roster has been good enough, and I think that's been a fatal flaw for the Bills. And that's not a shot. That's Beane. Beane's argument would be that I have given them the pieces and they still have not been able to get it done. And I think at the beginning of this conversation, I said, this is an entire 10-year thing. This is not just a 1 year thing. I think the roster is why this season failed. I don't think the roster has always been why this season has failed. I think back in the COVID years and a couple of years after that, the roster was very, very good and very competitive. So you can kind of pull at this both ways. You could say, well, what about 13 seconds? The Bills had the lead with 13 seconds left in a game in the AFC divisional round, and they still managed to lose. Who was held accountable for that? You could say, what about last year when I gave you the NFL MVP and you still were not able to get the job done in the AFC Championship? But this year, it was more about the roster. It's like you've got guys who have left and now are coming back that are out on the fields that are way past their prime. And Sean McDermott is raising the floor, but he's not raising the floor enough to get it to the next point. From just a what are we doing standpoint, I understand why this is happening. I am stunned at the decision. I understand why it's happening. I just think that there should have been probably a bigger wholesale change as opposed to just the one move, basically being decided.
Okay, so walk me through today. We saw locker clean out yesterday. Walk me through today. Will we hear from Terry Pagola?
Okay,
Will
so
we hear from Beane?
So let me actually add to this. Okay, remember the name I just said about Brian Dable?
Yeah.
So Diana Rossini, who covers the NFL for The Athletic. So my buddy and my colleague, Joe Biscaglia, just retweeted this. Talking to NFL executives around the league about Buffalo's next head coaching options, the name that keeps coming up is a familiar one, a Buffalo native and someone Josh Allen loves, Brian Dable. So the name that I just mentioned is now starting to float out there. It is very easy to make these connections because he's from Buffalo and Josh Allen loves him. They adore each other. So that's easy to make that connection. So I'm not saying her reporting is inaccurate. I said the exact same thing. I just feel like it's an easy connection to make. And it's probably the most immediate connection to make. So I do want to see how do we shift off of that, because this is such a coveted job. I think we need to realize this job is substantially different than the job Sean McDermott accepted in 2017. This team has one of the best players in the NFL. This team has been to the playoffs every single year since 2018. This team they're opening a new stadium next year. You're going to be the guy who starts this season in a new stadium. That's the other thing too. Like, I think, oh my God, my head is.
Well, okay, so did Josh have something to do with this, do you think?
That's a great question, Ed. You are such a good reporter. That is a great question, because you asking that is the thing that I've been thinking, but I don't exactly know how I'm supposed to say. I don't think this would blindside Josh Allen. I don't think he signs off on this, but I certainly do not think that he is waking up and looking at his phone this morning and going, oh my gosh, Sean McDermott was fired. He had to have known something was coming. And maybe, once again, tinfoil aluminum hat, maybe that's why he was so distraught after the game, because he didn't just feel like he let his teammates down. He feels like he let his coach down, and he had a sense that something was changing or that there might be moves made. That's tinfoil hat. We put that on. I don't think that's ultimately the case. I don't think Josh Allen is waking up in his house this morning and scrolling on Twitter and seeing, oh my goodness gracious, Sean McDermott was fired. I think he had to have some idea that this was coming.
So to Alicia's comment, this is probably why the locker room was so emotional. Do you think there was a sense throughout that if this didn't pan out the way it was expected to, or at least the way they hoped it would, someone would have been let go?
Say that again. Sorry.
That's okay. So
somebody just posted, watch the Dolphins hire McDermott, and it feels like such a move that would happen. And now all of a sudden you're like, what's better, the devil you know or the devil you don't?
Well, and so there we go. So my question was
here, and then Jordan Phillips. Sorry, this is real time.
Yeah.
Jordan Phillips just posted on Instagram, this shit here is so stupid, honestly sickening. The best coach I've ever been around. That was from Jordan Phillips on social media right now.
Wow. So do you think there was a sense in the locker room with the emotions that we saw on Saturday that if the game didn't pan out the way it was hoped or expected it would, that someone was going to get canned?
No, I didn't think that. At the time, I didn't think that. That's why this is so stunning to me. I never really got the sense. I thought that if this was going to happen, they needed a year to fizzle out. They needed a year like we saw in Baltimore. They needed a year like we saw in Pittsburgh, where it just was not even close to the standard. This has been the standard. This has been what the Bills have done. So past history has not made me think that this was likely. They have gone to the divisional round and lost more than any other outcome they have had with Sean McDermott as their head coach. and nothing ever changed then. So I was like, why would anything ever change now? You don't want to ruffle feathers. You're going into this new $2 billion stadium across the street. The roster isn't very good. There's a lot of people you can point the finger to, but I don't think Sean McDermott is very high on that list.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a Terry Pegula. I'm sure Brandon Beane had a say in this, or at least had conversations with Terry Pegula about this. I don't know if he had a say. I don't want to say that or report that. I'm sure there were conversations that were had. But I think Terry was just kind of fed up. I mean, Terry's probably like, what else are we supposed to do? Like, we need to try something different or else we're just never going to get there. I don't necessarily agree with that. I really don't. There's a lot of polarizing takes on this decision. Like, I'm in group messages with so many people who are diehard Bills fans. And this morning, they are ecstatic. I've got people who are like, this is better than Christmas. But then I've got other people who are like, yeah, but then I've got other people in my messages who are like, this is a beyond stupid move. And Sean McDermott is the scapegoat for a front office that has not surrounded this team with nearly enough talent. I mean, just look at the comments. The comments are pouring in. We have thousands and thousands of people.
Well, so while you're talking, Matt, I'm reading some of the comments here. And so I wonder, to your point about Terry Pegula, because the way he has seemingly managed the Sabres over the years and the way now dealing with the Bills, Scott brings up a good point. This is an unstable organization. And then we've got Jordan Phillips talking about this and kind of weighing in, saying that this is crazy. You know, what happens to his future? And then does this create a division in the locker room?
So I don't think it creates a division in the locker room. I'll work backwards here. I don't think it creates a division in the locker room because I think the locker room is probably a lot like what we have just said. The group messages were in the comments here. I think it's going to be a bit of a locker room divided already on whether or not this is a good idea. It does not surprise me that Jordan Phillips loved Sean McDermott. He is a guy they kept going back to, and this is a place where Jordan Phillips revitalized his career. So that's not surprising to me at all. But I wonder on the offensive side if there would be guys who would say, hey, this is a good move because we've kind of hit our ceiling here and it feels like there's nowhere else to go. So that's why I don't think this is going to create some sort of division in the locker room. I just think that this is going to be a reality check for a lot of the guys who are still here of like, hey, we're at fault for some of this. Like, we're partially the reason why this did not go well. Do you think Beane could be a Doug Whaley lame duck GM situation? That's a really great point from Mark. Okay, so what the Bills have previously done is Terry Pegula let Doug Whaley draft they hired Sean McDermott, then they let Doug Whaley draft a class and then fired him the next day. I don't think that would be the case here. I don't think that would happen.
That's kind of like what Joe is saying, that Beane may be staying on to fire the coach, but you're saying, or to find the coach rather, then the Bills will move on from him.
Yeah, but if you do that, but it's a bad idea because you want these two people to be in lockstep off the rip. And I think that this is going to be some of the things you see around the league of why they're, and that's and honestly, Ed, that's another reason why Dable immediately comes to mind because I know, so Brandon Beane's ultimately best friend is Joe Shane, who is the general manager of the New York Giants. Brandon, Joe, and Dable have always been very close. It's why Dable was the head coach of the New York Giants. Like, this is like a group of friends, right? Like, you have your group of friends, you start to have success, and you want to make sure that your friends are taken care of. And not to say that this is like not fair. They were all very accomplished people, and they all deserved these opportunities. Brandon knows Brian. Josh knows Brian. A lot of these guys in the room love Brian. Brian Dable is the type of guy, Ed, let me tell you, Brian Dable is the type of guy who will randomly FaceTime Josh Allen at like 6:30 on a Tuesday and be like, what's up, nerd? How you doing? And then they'll just like sit there and talk for a couple minutes. And that relationship has always been very, very strong. That to me is the layup. That to me is the like, if this happens, I won't be at all surprised. But they better do an extensive search. They better look at as many candidates as possible because it's a really attractive job.
Okay. Josh Allen is who he is in part because of Brian Dable. But he comes on, say, as head coach. There's a much different relationship there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it still as successful if that's actually the case? As Dable head coach, Josh Allen still quarterback.
It all depends who you surround yourself with. It all depends what people you put in place. And I think that will be such a critical element of whatever the Bills ultimately decide with their head coach. Do they bring in, so the way Sean McDermott did it, and this is I think to his credit, the right way. When Sean McDermott was hired, he surrounded himself with very established and legitimate coordinators. So the coordinators he hired were Leslie Frazier, who had been previously a head coach in the NFL, and a guy named Rick Dennison, who flamed out. And then the next year, they hired Brian Dable. But he wanted to surround himself with people who have done this before. If the Bills go hire some flashy, hotshot coach that's young and this is their first opportunity.
Like who?
The best name to keep an eye on, and this will not happen, but the one that would be so fun is Marcus Freeman. He's not even in the NFL. He is the head coach for Notre Dame. But a lot of people think he is a rising star in the coaching world and will get a job. There's not, though, an it factor coach this year like there was last year. And I think that's some of the frustration for some people. Mark says Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak is another name that I think should be very high on the list for Bills and who they need to look into. But it feels like it's a year too late because last year there were some really young, intriguing coaching options that got hired and had immediate success. I'm talking about Ben Johnson in Chicago, who took that team out of the the basement of the NFL to the same place the Bills just got, to the divisional round. Yeah, Kurt Cignetti would be amazing, Mark. Kurt Cignetti is I don't know if I'd say amazing. I just don't necessarily see that happening. He's the head coach of Indiana, which is why Mark's icon is an Indiana logo. They're playing in the national championship this evening. But last year it was Ben Johnson. It was Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen is who the Bills beat by 3 points in the wild card round. Ben Johnson got his Bears to the divisional round and looks like one of the best coaches now in the NFL. So that would be crazy. Freeman was on the Bills coaching staff early in his career. I believe Marcus Freeman had a cup of coffee playing for the Bills as well.
So would they hire Dable as an OC?
So that's another great point. If Brian Dable strikes out on head coaching opportunities, I would bet this would be his highest. Ed, that was a phenomenal question. It was really good.
I stole it from the comments.
Okay. If Brian doesn't get a head coaching job, I would imagine he is back here as the offensive coordinator. Now, there had been rumblings that for years, Brian and Sean, there was a little sandpaper there. I know for a fact that has not been. It was not as bad as maybe it was perceived to be outside of the building. But Brian had a way he wanted to win, and Sean had a way he wanted to win. Brian's way he wanted to win was, we have this freakazoid quarterback. Let him throw the ball 40 times. Mm-hmm. Sean was, we need to be tough and physical and be able to run the ball and control things. And clearly that neither of them worked. Neither of them were able to get it to the point where they needed to go, but that was always a little bit of a power struggle. If Brian doesn't get a head coaching job from the Bills or from somewhere else, I could see him being the offensive coordinator here.
Okay, lift the curtain for me. You're talking about some friction here between coaches. How long has this been going on? And obviously that was between Dable and McDermott. Mm-hmm. Neither of them are with the Bills right now. But what else are we not actually hearing about?
Okay, well, think about this, Ed. Let's just take it to any workplace that has ever existed ever. If you feel like you are carrying the load and you're not necessarily getting the same level of effort from some of your peers, there's going to be frustration. I don't think this is effort or caring. I think this is just straight up success. And you could make the argument both ways. If you're Brandon Beane, you could say, Josh Allen won the MVP last year, and you are a defensive-minded head coach. How was that not enough to get us to a Super Bowl? If you're Sean McDermott, you could say, pardon my language, dude, I've been making chicken salad out of chicken crap for the last 7 years, and this team has not been nearly good enough. You need to appreciate the success we've had, and it's on you to build a better roster. So you could go both ways here, and I think that's why naturally there had to be a little bit of frustration, resentment towards each other, and thinking the other person played a bigger hand in the shortcomings. I just always thought, listen, Sean was first. They hired Sean before they hired Brandon. I thought that he would be first and he would be last. I thought that he would outlast Brandon, but that's not happening.
So I thought this was kind of interesting too, from P.A. Jailer. Good morning to you. If they're serious about winning now, they need an offensive-minded head coach who can maximize the roster. Mm-hmm. I mean, the offense struggled so much this year.
Yeah, it was very inconsistent, and I think that's a way that you can look at it two ways. You could say, and that's what those two candidates I just brought up, Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen, that's why they would have been no-brainers, because they're offensive guys and they've proven that they can take somebody and get them to the next level. The counterpoint to that is, yeah, but the offense and Josh Allen have been really, really good, and the defense has kind of seemingly been the thing that has failed them time and time again. That's not necessarily this year, but just in general. So you could say, wouldn't you trust your offense to be able to figure it out and then have your defense be the thing that is more of a sure thing? I don't subscribe to that, though. I think that Josh Allen should have the best offensive mind around him and should have all of these cool, shiny toys that he can play with.
Sure.
And then you figure out the defense and you piecemeal it from there. But, yeah.
We did see a lot. We did see a lot of injuries this season as well. I mean, and is that because McDermott wanted to be so much more physical?
No, I don't think it's because he wanted to be more physical, but it's another interesting layer that Sean McDermott decided to move on from their head athletic trainer last year and then hired somebody else. He promoted Will Greenberg to their main job, and now they had all of these injuries, and it makes you wonder, like, how much of that is just freak accidents and how much of it is, because there was a different change in that element of things. There's people commenting Belichick for head coach.
Yeah, is this real? No way.
No, there's no way. I don't think so. I mean, unless Terry Pagula... No, it should not be. It should not be. We saw what Bill Belichick was when Tom Brady left, right, and it was not very impressive. So I'm not saying that his resume is not astounding and he's not one of the best coaches in the history of the NFL, but that's not the move I would make. You know the move I would make, Ed? Because a couple people have asked this, and I want to give credit where it's due, because I just saw Jeremy White from WGR tweet about this. Oh, hi, Dom.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Welcome to work. Buddy. Welcome to work.
Sorry, I was hustling. 30 minutes ago, I was at the gym. So
yeah, but your hair, how does your hair look so good still?
I just the 30-mile-an-hour winds just blew it right in the parking lot.
Yo, Dom, were you throwing some weight around, or were you running? What were you doing, buddy?
No, I was throwing some weight around. I was throwing
pumping iron.
Yeah, I get that. Nobody pumps iron quite like Ed Dranch in the small box there on the screen. What I would do, and this is not like a Mapove original idea, but I did see it on social media and I immediately loved it. The San Francisco 49ers head coach, Kyle Shanahan, only has 1 year left on his current contract. You can trade for coaches. I don't know what that would look like, but I would be really interested to see if the Bills would be interested in trying to acquire Kyle Shanahan, because that would raise the floor for the Bills really, really high. Mark says we do not want McDaniels as head coach. So this could be, I don't know if he said it right or if he spelled it wrong. There are two options here. There's Josh McDaniels, who is the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, and then there is Mike McDaniel, who was the head coach for the Miami Dolphins, who is available. Thinking. So to me, now Julie, hi Julie, hello, hope you're doing well. She asked what I would do. What I would do is I would explore that thing we just talked about, which is it possible to get Kyle Shanahan out of San Francisco and get him to Buffalo? My other pie in the sky idea would be, well, what if you can get Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame to come to Buffalo, and then you could surround him with some really great coordinators like a Brian Daboll who knows Josh Allen, and then you go find somebody else to be your defensive coordinator. And then a lot of people are going to be commenting about Mike Tomlin, because Mike Tomlin is this successful coach who has always raised the floor with the Steelers. I almost think Mike Tomlin is the same thing as Sean McDermott. I feel like they're cut from the same cloth. It's kind of the same stuff. If you're looking for a spark and a change, I don't know if that's the move I would make.
No, all right, so Dom, I want to bring you in here. I want to first welcome you in, say good morning to you. Give me your take here. Sean McDermott out, Brandon Beane stays. What do you make?
I'm shocked. I did wake up, or I saw this news. I was pretty shocked. I just thought that for what Sean McDermott was able to do this year, given the roster that was given to him and the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, I always thought Brandon Beane was going to be the first to go. I really always thought Terry's big first hire being Sean McDermott was going to get him some loyalty inside that building. That did not appear so. I also just think, too, and I thought about it a little bit more, as you get to the point, you have a franchise quarterback, a absolute sicko freak athlete who can get you over that hump, but you aren't able to get that yet. So at one point and another here, the change had to come. And I think Sean McDermott is just kind of the scapegoat in this one. And maybe they looked at all these candidates that Matt, I'm sure, has rifled through here and over the past time you guys have hopped on the StreamYard and just said, hey, this is a window of opportunity where we see somebody where we think might be the fit to finally get this team over the hump too. I go back to, I was listening to, I think the same thing Matt was, WGR this morning, and they got talking. I think Capaccio was talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this morning in the mid 2000s before they brought John Gruden on. Like the theme of the story is that they're kind of like that team in the mid 2000s, like the Bills, where they were good and they'd reach a certain point, but they could never get the job done until they brought in a guy like John Gruden, and then they were able to win their first Super Bowl back in 2003. I'm not saying it's a replicated success story that Buffalo is going to have, but they just needed to bring somebody in that I feel like just gets them over the hump. McDermott wasn't doing that, and Josh is going to turn 30 by the next time he plays a snap of football. I think, right? So it's just time to go and make a move. I just didn't think Sean McDermott was going to be the guy.
Okay, I love this question from Julie. Josh needs shiny toys. Can Beane get them?
Tom, you want to take it or you want me to?
I'll just say, yeah, of course he can. But he's got some salary cap stuff to figure out here too. He's got dead cap money, and he also has some shiny toys, or he just has toys on the roster that he needs to figure out how he can get the most out of them. But that will come down to the head coach. That's just my 2 cents on it, Matt. I'll let you.
Okay. I think Brandon Beane, because he's a human, is going to feel the heat of his wide receiver comments that he had at the beginning before the season started and how bad the wide receivers were. And I almost feel like an overcorrection could be coming. And he's going to be like, you want wide receivers? I'm going to give you wide receivers. And then we're never going to talk about this again. And he's going to do everything in his power to get multiple wide receivers. A lot of this is also going to be based on the coaches. And it's going to be what the coaches need. If they bring in Brian Daboll here, it's going to be like, all right, Dabes, what do we need? And Daboll's going to be like, all right, these are the types of receivers Josh needs, and these are the types of things we're going to need for success. And you do boom, 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 and you try and go out and find that. I mean, Scott says trade for Shanahan. Right now, that's my favorite option. My favorite option is the idea of Shanahan. I just have no idea why the 49ers would be moving on from him, because it feels like takes two to tango. There's only one guy here standing here wanting to do the dance, and I think it's the Bills. I don't think the 49ers are interested in that.
Look how injured the 49ers were too, right?
Yeah, and look how injured the 49ers are. My like pie in the sky one is the Marcus Freeman idea. I love that idea. And I just think I love the unknown. I love maybe this could work out if you do Marcus Freeman and then you surround him with some veteran coordinators. I think that could be really, really cool. And Jenny says, but we don't have any money.
Right.
Jenny, there's always money in the banana stand. There's always money that you can find when you pull the right levers. The Bills are going to have this offseason was already going to be fascinating. Now it's taken it to another level. There's going to be guys who have been here for a long time who aren't going to be here. There's going to be guys that are under contract who are going to get cut because this team needs to figure out how they can operate and spend some money. They've got a lot of stuff they need to figure out. And now there's going to be another new thing they're trying to figure out.
Does this mean that we would possibly restructure contracts as well? Like we just saw that happen with Josh Allen. Would that happen again?
Yeah, for sure. Like, here's the perfect example of this, Ed. Dawson Knox makes way more money than he should. The way that the Bills can keep Dawson Knox here is they can restructure his contract, give him an extension, which would basically lower the amount of money that he will be making, but keep him in Buffalo longer. So they can say, hey, Dawson, listen, we love what you have done for this city and for this organization, but we can't keep paying you this money. Here's what we'll do. Either we'll cut you and we can let you go to another team, or we'll let you stay here. We'll extend you so you can stay here even longer, but you're going to have to take less money. And with a player like Dawson Knox, just had a baby, his wife is from Orchard Park, it makes sense that like a move like that would be intriguing to him. Other guys you might go to and say, hey, we need you to take a pay cut. And they'd be like, get lost. I'll just go live somewhere warmer and make more money where the taxes aren't as bad, and I'm going to go live my life. So you could go both ways there. It's just very dependent on the person.
This is like the palm trees comment with the Sabres.
Yeah. And by the way, Sabres play in 3 hours. I thought we'd be talking about that today, but guess not.
Yeah, right. Ed brings up a good point. Oliver always hurt. Milano always hurt. Kincaid always hurt. Do we part ways with these guys in particular?
Not Ed, not Dalton, for sure. Matt Milano is, he's a free agent this year, so that's a decision, right, Matt, that they'll have to, make this year. But I mean, Matt Milano, had a pretty good year this year, and he stayed relatively healthy. And I think you saw his effect on the defense as well. My guess is, and I was at locker room clean out yesterday while Matt was flying back from Denver. We could not find Matt Milano.
Shocking.
Yeah, he was. He's pretty good at evading us, but I will say we spotted him very briefly in the locker room. Whether or not he, comes back here will have to be a decision Beane makes. But I think bringing a guy like him back here for maybe another year or two, if the money makes sense, I think is just the best to keep some sort of continuity as this team goes through the major change now. When you take away your new, the head coach you've had, and then also the moves on the defense that staff wise that might kind of spawn because of this. So a lot of unknowns there too. Kincaid, Oliver, injuries happen and it stinks. It's like Matt's point, did new athletic training staff have anything to do with this? Was it just kind of a bad stroke of luck for the Bills? You don't know that, right? But Ed, Kincaid, I think those guys stay right where they are.
Somebody also mentioned that Josh should be paid less money than he is right now if he were to restructure a contract. What do you guys make of that?
So you can, that's one of the levers you can always pull, is like you can make money go into a signing bonus so it becomes guaranteed money, and you could extend somebody. There's a lot of different things you could do. So that's one of the things the Bills have always done about like, hey, Josh, we need to restructure your contract, which will give him more guaranteed money and will open up more spending money for the Bills. So that's just obviously like a little thing that they could pull. I was laughing a second ago because, Dom, I'm sure yours is the same way. I have 244 text messages right now, and all it is group messages of people who are losing their minds about this and trying to figure out some clarity on what the heck is happening.
My friends think I know right now who the Buffalo Bills head coach is.
Yeah. I've gotten a couple of those of like, hey, who is it going to be? And I'm like, a little busy right now, but somebody said 5 years too late. Somebody said, who's it going to be? Someone said, I'm stunned. Someone said Mike Tomlin. And then Aaron says wrap by 10:30. So there's
we
a
will.
bit of,
Don't worry.
Yeah, we will.
I've had the
will.
same. It is funny though, Matt. It is like a question I've had in these same group messages, and I've been on social media getting my way into here too. McDermott's kind of becoming the polarizing topic. There are guys and there are a lot of people who are very happy with what he has done for the city of Buffalo, getting them out of the 17-year playoff drought, 5 straight division titles. But then there's also the other side of that where people are just like, man, did we not realize this after 13 seconds, this guy wasn't going to work out? It is crazy how, if on, I guess, not middle ground, you're not really finding this. You really feel like there's one side of the aisle on this one and another side of the aisle when it comes to this news about McDermott.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great comment too. Like, I hate the Freeman idea. We don't have time to guess. We need somebody that is proven. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but if somebody is proven, it's also because they haven't worked somewhere else. And the other names that we'll be talking about are a Mike Tomlin or a Mike McDaniel, or, I think right now the Joe Brady thing is probably very real. I wouldn't like that. Like, I don't think that would be a smart move for the Bills. So the other proven things out there aren't really proven because they did not prove where they were that they could have sustained success, which is why that they are available. Clint Kubiak is the name, though, that's like really interesting. He's not nearly as exciting and intriguing as what Ben Johnson was last year, but a young offensive mind that I think would be a really fun thing to explore.
I think another, and again, outlier name that a lot of people haven't talked about, I think Grant Udinski, the offensive coordinator from the Jacksonville Jaguars, would just be an interesting name. Another offensive mind, comes under the Liam Cohen umbrella there too. So just another name to throw out there as well. My initial thought, Matt, and this is an original thought, so I don't want to take full credit for it. Your Marcus Freeman is kind of like your big, like, kind of cloud scenario. Brian Daboll with Davis Webb as your OC.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that's a no-brainer. So Ed, for perspective, Dave, I'm not trying to like. Do you know who Davis Webb? I'm not trying to like belittle you.
No, I have no idea.
Okay, good.
I do news, not sports.
Yeah, no, which I don't know important news things. Davis Webb was the Bills' quarterback coach he was the quarterback coach when Brian Daboll was here as the offensive coordinator. Okay. He then moved on and went to the Giants and then to Denver, coincidentally, where he is now in that same position. A lot of people have said if they moved on from Joe Brady, Davis Webb would be the next most likely guy to replace him as offensive coordinator. And then that, to Dom's point, is you would have an established, smart, offensive-minded head coach. You could surround him with some more inexperienced younger coordinators and feel a little bit more comfortable. And obviously they have familiarity with each other. In that instance, I also think there's a world where Bobby Babich, who is their defensive coordinator, could stay because they all know each other and they've all worked with each other before. So there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Mark, thank you very much for saying that. I got to tell you something. I do appreciate it.
Ed, you're doing great.
You're the man, Ed.
I love the Bills. I love Buffalo. And I want the best for Buffalo always, whether it's holding officials accountable, in the city, or whether it's my football team. I want the Bills to win. Can you imagine what the city would be if the Bills won a Super Bowl? It would be insane. It would be nuts. But when you have these pieces that are seemingly, at odds or just kind of piecemealed, it feels as if we're not doing ourselves justice. And so I wonder, based on what some of the comments are here, does Brady get fired? Does DeMar Hamlin get let go? Does Keon get the axe? Like, all those three people in particular, I mean, obviously, Brady is on a different level than those two players, but do we see something like that happening?
Go ahead, Ed. Or go ahead, Dom. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on stuff.
No, you're good. That will all come down to decisions I think Brandon Beane's going to have to make in terms of where he feels like what he can still get out of him. The Keon conversation, Ed, is going to be something that, we're expected to talk. We were expected to talk to Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott sometime this week. It'll now just probably just be Brandon Beane and Josh Allen. That will be such an interesting point about Keon because you invested a high second-round pick, almost a first-round pick in this guy. You feel like you could have gotten a little bit more. You saw a glimpse of the production, but that's a guy who couldn't stay on the field, and not because of injuries, but because of disciplinary reasons.
Sure.
Because he couldn't get it together and find the level of professionalism that took to be an NFL football player. That will be something we're going to monitor all off season is, do the Bills just decide to cut ties? There's a lot of fans I know. It's a very, very polarizing topic, but I think most Bills fans will agree that Keon Coleman, they probably would just say, smell you later if the Bills decided to cut ties with him there too. And DeMar Hamlin is such a tug at the heartstrings, right? Because of everything that happened a couple of years ago and the millions he's raised for charity and the love he has poured back into Buffalo. And that's, I think, a credit to some of the things that you get inside this locker room, the culture that has been created in Orchard Park. But at the end of the day, and those guys will tell you, and they all told me this yesterday when we talked to guys like AJ Epinesa, who is on an expiring contract, who's a free agent, David Edwards and Connor McGovern and all these guys, it's a business. And they know that. And that's what it's going to come down to at the end of the day. It's not, is it a feel-good story? Ultimately, for the Buffalo Bills, are they going to have the 53 guys on an active roster every game day that's going to give them the best chance to win and ultimately the best chance to get over that hump finally in 2026, 2027 and win a Super Bowl?
Okay, so can I just address Jessica's comment here also because, Matt, you mentioned having a tinfoil hat. And I feel like so many of us, after watching this game on Saturday, have said the same thing. This does not appear to be unbiased, objective, and that there are other levers being pulled here. Is gambling a factor here? Are the odds, is sports betting a problem when it comes down to objectivity?
Yeah, that's a philosophical question. I don't think gambling is why the Bills lost on Saturday or why the call was made the way it was. But at the same time, gambling has changed sports a ton. It also is making a lot of people a ton of money. So it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Mm-hmm. So, I don't think that's why they lost on Saturday. I think it was a bad call. And I think that, it's a bad call. And that's probably why it happened. But I don't think there was some voice coming into a ref's mysterious headset that was like, hey, if we call this an interception, we're going to make 60% more money than if it's a catch or something like that. I don't think that's the case. It's not gambling. The referees are just incompetent. These referees are like part-time employees.
Go look at the Rams-Bears game last night, the Devontae Adams catch. The Twitter blew up, because it felt like it was the same play in the same scenario with Devontae Adams that was ruled a catch. He was down by contact. Felt like that was the same thing that happened with Brandon Cooks. That's a refereeing inconsistency, not gambling.
Dude, I'm stunned. I know I keep saying that word. I need to find like other adjectives that work, but shocked, confused.
I have a thought I wanted just to get off and maybe see Matt add if you guys thought the same, because we all saw the big moment where Sean McDermott says, "I'm standing up for Buffalo." Little swear word for Sean McDermott there afterwards. "I'm standing up for Buffalo." Mm-hmm. I got thinking after now this news, because hindsight's 2020.
I wonder if you're going to say,
did it feel theatrical because he knew he was on the hot seat? Because this also, I thought about this a little bit too yesterday. I remember prior to coming to Buffalo, I covered the first couple years when Mike Norvell was hired at Florida State. Insignificant at this moment, but I remember he was very theatrical when they weren't doing good because he was on the hot seat in his first year and he kept pounding. I always call him, he's a pound the table kind of guy. So I just equivalated it to that with Sean McDermott because it felt like, now looking back on it, maybe that was a bit of theatrics to try to just make his secret last plea to Terry Pegula, to the Bills, to this organization that I am the right guy. I will stand up for Buffalo. But ultimately, that didn't happen. I don't know. I do think there was sincereness because of the frustration and what that call meant, ultimately ending the season. But it did make me ponder that thought a little bit is, he doesn't go after officiating ever, Matt. He's very quiet. But then he also called Jay Skursky, the Buffalo News, in a pool report to talk about the officiating after. So all those little things just start to add up. And it makes you kind of ponder.
Hold on. Stop. Sorry. I'm not trying to be rude. The Buffalo Bills have just released a statement. This is not great video, but I'm just going to read it to you. The Buffalo Bills announced that Sean McDermott has been relieved of his duties as head coach. Here is the quote. "Sean has done an admirable job of leading our football team for the past 9 seasons," said owner Terry Pegula. "But I feel we are in need of a new structure within our leadership to give this organization the best opportunity to take our team to the next level. We owe that to our players and to Bills Mafia. Sean helped change the mindset of this organization and was instrumental in the Bills becoming a perennial playoff team. I respect all of the work, loyalty, and attention to detail he showed for this team and the community. I wish Sean, Jamie, and his family the best. Moving forward, Brandon Beane will now serve as president of football operations, general manager of the Buffalo Bills. Brandon will oversee all facets of our football operation, including the oversight of our coaching staff. I have full faith and have witnessed Brandon's outstanding leadership style and have confidence in his abilities to lead our organization. Beane will be leading the search for a new head coach and will be working directly with Pegula and Pete Gwelly, who will now serve as president of business operations during the interview and hiring process." That is the long and worded and convoluted statement that has just been sent out from the Bills. Thank you on the back end for being able to get that video up. But that is what the Buffalo Bills are saying. It's crazy.
What does any of that actually mean, though, for any of us?
Okay, so Sean or Ed, this is like when there's a press release with a bunch of just random nonsense on it, and it's like it doesn't really mean anything. This is them trying to be politically correct and saying like Sean did a lot for the organization, but they lost too many times in these moments, and we needed to do something different. Brandon is taking over as like the top guy. He'll find a coach, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so Beane gets a promotion, Gwelly gets a promotion.
No, it's more of like a reorganization. So before it was Beane was the general manager and he reported to Terry, and so did the head coach. Now it feels like moving forward, Brandon will now serve as the president of football operations, general manager. Brandon will oversee all facets of our football operation, including the oversight of our coaching staff. So it's a reorganization. So now it's going to be head coach reports to Beane, Beane reports to Pegula. So yeah, I guess in a way, this does give Brandon Beane more power.
Okay. That's huge, because if that's the case and if that's the latter now, it's completely different than what we were talking about a little earlier, where I thought that was the case. And you were saying, no, it was McDermott reported to Terry and so did Beane. So they were kind of working parallel.
Yeah.
But
so this
now,
is now.
That would be a big deal.
So another thing that I'll mention, and this is just because this is a very reputable NFL source, Peter Schrager, who works for ESPN, posted Dable and Brady are obvious names to watch in Buffalo. We have talked about both of those, but he said a third one is worth circling. Broncos OC Davis Webb, who is Josh Allen's teammate for 3 years in Buffalo, 30 years old, has been on Sean Payton's hip for the last 3 years. Webb has already met with Las Vegas and Baltimore. So it makes you wonder if there is some sort of like hierarchy that comes into place. I wonder if Joe Brady takes over, if Davis Webb becomes the OC, or I wonder if Brian Dable gets the job, if Davis Webb becomes the OC. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here, but it is, I mean, you see the comments. Brandon Beane has been a polarizing figure here. The fact that he is essentially getting a promotion while Sean McDermott is getting fired, I think is sitting really wrong with a lot of Bills fans. So listen, I'll be surprised if Terry Pagula talks at any point. The statement will be the talking that Terry Pagula does. I could see him walking out to a podium, making a statement, and then turning it over to Brandon Beane, and then Brandon Beane just dealing with comments and questions for an hour about what the heck is going on here. I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm sure that's going to happen at some point. It might happen today. I don't really know.
Okay, can I ask for perspective here? Because I'm an accountability guy. I want to hear from the owner, and I want to be able to ask questions. Does that happen often, or is that just kind of like, no, it doesn't happen at all?
No, it happens everywhere, but not here. He hasn't. I shouldn't say this because he actually answered a couple questions to Febin Casahoon, one of our news anchors, like last week about the NHL draft. But that is the first time he has taken questions in person from a Buffalo reporter, to my knowledge, since like 2019 at
Why
the
is he
NFL owners
hiding?
meetings. I don't know. We can have a conversation, but not on camera.
Understood.
we can have a conversation, but not on
Thanks,
camera.
Matt. That's why you're the sports director.
And have your people call my people.
Yeah.
I can give you my thought, but I cannot give it publicly.
Okay. James says Sean was the head making all the decisions being reported to him. Is that actually? I mean,
It was a two-pronged thing. It would be like if there were two bosses and they reported to the same boss. And I'm sure both of the bosses were probably at times talking junk about the other boss to their main boss. And maybe one.
Here's an interesting comment from Andrew, and this is kind of to your insanity point, Matt. Beane's going to do what he has for years, the definition of insanity. Does anything change here?
Dom, you can take this one. I'm trying to tweet something out.
You would hope. I think you would have to, right? Because you're making a change at your head coach. You look at where you are as an organization. You've kind of reached a plateau. You know this team is good enough to reach an AFC championship. They've done it twice with Josh Allen. They did it twice under Sean McDermott. They've reached the playoffs, 6 years in a row. If go back to 2018, math off the top of my head, I'm struggling a little bit. I talk for a living, but you haven't gotten over the hump, and you have your franchise quarterback. It's eventually to that point I was making earlier where changes have to come. And I don't see how Beane looks at this and thinks to himself, yeah, I got to go do the same things and just rely on trying to make small moves and re-sign some guys. No, I would expect him to not completely overhaul this roster, because there's a lot of money involved in that I don't think the Bills just really have. But to Matt's point about the banana stand, there is money to make moves, and I believe Beane will do that as well, because he has to at this point, because the next person on the chopping block to lose their job would be Brandon Beane if this doesn't get turned around at some point. So you have Josh Allen, and I do wonder how much of making that pick in 2018 has bought Brandon Beane leniency within that organization. I mean, he nailed the pick. He got Josh Allen. He got arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and will probably go down when it's all said and done. His stats will be one of the best that ever has come out of the NFL as a quarterback. So I wonder how much leniency that bought Beane in this moment. He got his guy, but now he's got to build around this roster because it didn't work this year. So I would expect changes to come.
This is a good question from Mark here. Dom, do you want to start, or do you want me to do this one? Just about Sean.
Yeah, I'll just start real quick. Yeah, on a human standpoint, it's tough. I think we enjoyed Sean. I think Sean was very fair with us. I think there's a lot of head coaches when you look at other press conferences around the league. And again, this comes back to my experience before coming here in 2022. I covered a lot of college. I was a big college sports reporter, and the access and and the conversations you have with coaches and even players in that level is so drastically different in the worst way. So it got better here. And I always feel like Sean was fair with us, treated us with respect. I would like to think that most of us reciprocated that as well. I am shocked because, as somebody who lives in Buffalo, who's around this community, I know how much Sean McDermott means to a lot of people. I mean, for 17 years, guys, this team didn't make the playoffs. They were the longest active playoff drought of any North American sports team. And Sean McDermott had a hand in that. But, that's the human side of it. But the business football side of it is that changes had to come eventually. And this is just where we are.
So I will say, to Mark's point, I have been around covering the team in some capacity since Sean was hired in 2017. My first McDermott of Sean McDermott was that back when social media was still in its infancy, I posted that the Bills are hiring Steve McDermott and not Sean McDermott because I went to high school with a Steve McDermott and that was the name that was on the top of my head, and it was up for like 10 minutes and I was like, oh, this is great. I'll say I think Sean McDermott has always been a very professional and respectable person. My relationship with Sean over the years, I think, has gotten better as time has gone on because I feel like Sean has become a more open and vulnerable man, realizing his shortcomings on the football side and understanding that like everybody's got a job to do. I like Sean McDermott. I wish him and his family nothing but the best. He has always treated me with fairness and kindness. That is all you can ask as somebody who spends so much time together. And I mean, it's not like we're hanging out with each other, we're calling each other, we're texting each other. But keep in mind, everybody, during football season, Sean McDermott talks to reporters on Monday, on Wednesday, on Friday, and on Sunday. That's 4 days a week that you are communicating with this person. That's more than you communicate with probably a lot of the other people in your life. During training camp, it's almost every single day. And it's just natural that you're bumping into these people and you're talking and you're having different conversations. And, I remember Sean came on my podcast this past offseason, and he was so good about what this city and this organization meant to him and how much it drives him to have success. And I think about somebody who is fully embraced like Buffalo, and now that he's gone, he's gone because the football team has not had success, but not because he did not care enough. I can say that with full confidence.
He had so much positivity and just understood the larger picture. To your point about community, when you were interviewing him for Fandemonium, talking about the old stadium. And you can watch that, by the way, in its entirety right now on WKBW.com. Shameless plug.
Thank you.
However,
didn't age well. Didn't age well. Didn't age well. A lot of people talking about, I can't wait to see the confetti falling at the AFC Championship before we close out the stadium. It's like,
maybe that was the curse.
Yeah, maybe not.
Okay, but realistically, he was the right person for the job at the time when he was hired. I mean, we needed a guy to come in here and say, we're shaking things up. We need a playoff caliber every single time we go out there. The locker room changed, and it was almost like the dynamic shifted in Buffalo after years of just poor coaching.
They needed somebody to change the mindset and the outside perception of what the Buffalo Bills are, and well, I should say were. Sean McDermott did that better than I think anybody else could have.
Right.
If you want to start being critical of Sean McDermott, I think it doesn't even start until 2020 or 2021. I think what he was able to do with those teams was really impressive and was really admirable. But at a certain point, you wonder, how many times are we going to do this over and over and over again?
Right.
Casey asks, do we think Josh will have an influence on the next head coach? I'm sure it'll be a conversation. I feel like it's the same way that Josh probably found about the news today will be the same thing with the head coach. I don't think it'll blindside him. I don't think he will have the authority to be like, I want the head coach to be this person. Go make it happen. He does not deserve that, even though he is this team's face of the franchise and he's their best player. He's also whiffed on a lot of shit. Sorry for the poor language. He wanted Keon Coleman, or at least he said he did, and that did not work out. He wanted Ken Dorsey as their offensive coordinator. That did not work out. So let Josh Allen be a football player and let the guys in charge of trying to figure out who the coaching staff needs to be focus on that. That's like asking me, who the next meteorologist at Channel 7 should be. I don't know.
Well, I was to that point.
I don't know.
We're hiring a manager here, and I'm, like it's for our show in the morning, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to interview that person. They're like, no, Dranch, you can't.
No,
you're not a manager.
Actually, Ed, we need you to stay as far away from those interviews as possible, and then we'll let them meet you.
Larry says the next head coach should be someone who's won a Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah, but
it's a short list though.
Right.
You're extremely pigeonholing yourself. If that's your biggest requirement as a head coach, you are just
the other thing here is that if they have won a Super Bowl and they are available, that means they have also flamed out somewhere else.
Sure.
And it makes you wonder, like, why would we want to do that? And the easy answer here is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin goes to the Steelers, he wins, he has early success. And then for the last 10 years, they have been just the definition of like purgatory, where every year they win 10 games, they get into the playoffs, and they lose in the first round. If you're not wanting to do the same thing as you did with Sean McDermott, that's not the move you make. If you're like, oh, Mike Tomlin's the guy, then I would think that would be crazy. Pete Carroll has a Super Bowl. Pete Carroll is like 70 years old or something.
80.
Yeah.
He's old.
I'm seeing a lot of bring Marv back comments too.
Marv is 100. No, no, absolutely not. I would be very on board if this team went and found somebody who they think has a ton of potential. And that's what Sean was. Like, it's important to remember when they hired Sean McDermott, he was an inexperienced, unproven head coach. It was his first head coaching job. And I would certainly say that it worked out as good or better than anyone could have imagined when they hired him in 2017. But it ran its course because of the shortcomings that continued to happen. You're just trying to get one, man. Just get in and try and win one.
Yep.
And we should see.
I was just on Twitter or X, and Cameron Wolf from the NFL Network put this out there a little while ago. Talked to 3 Bills players this morning who were just learning news. Head coach Sean McDermott was fired after we all did. They were shocked. One text, WTF.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be completely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here.
I mean, it goes. It's like the point. The business is the business, right? But
Sure.
like that's the culture McDermott had. The guys in the locker room really did love him, and that's just like that's the human side to it. To that question we were answering earlier, Ed, and it's just that's the divide of where we are, and then what it takes to be an NFL head coach.
Yeah, this is there's so many different things out there. I mean, Jonathan Feliciano used to play for the Bills. Brian Daboll should be the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills. You know, he was here when Daboll was here. Bill Barnwell. I don't think the Bills should have fired Sean McDermott. How much does Shane Steichen wish he would have just been fired? Shane Steichen would have been a no-brainer for the Bills. Sorry, with Harbaugh off the market, this is a mistake. I think Harbaugh is very similar to McDermott.
It's the same like a Mike Tomlin thing, you know. It's like you're just even.
This is an interesting comment here from Thomas. This was a shock this morning. The issue is you need a blue-collar coach that fits with Buffalo, and that's not easy to do. And that's kind of what we were saying. Like, he was the right guy for the job at the time. He came in, he understood that this is a small town, but with a big heart.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, he absolutely understood that. Nobody would understand that better than Brian Daboll, but that's almost like too convenient just because he is from here. Sure. I don't think that needs to be the biggest factor, but I do wonder how a guy like Mike McDaniel, for example, would mesh with the Buffalo Bills community and the Buffalo Bills fan base. No. Like, you know, off-white Nikes and a fitted is not what we saw Sean McDermott. People were mad at Sean McDermott when he wore clear glasses. And they lost their mind. So, like, you know, I don't think it's the most important thing, but it is actually a, you know, thing to talk about. Jenna, how long does it typically take to find and officially hire a new head coach? Jenna, they might have somebody already in mind, and maybe that's why the decision was made. And this happens rather quickly. I do not think that would be a good thing. I think that they need to have a very extensive search, and I think that there needs to be a lot that goes into it. Dude, my phone is just crazy. It's like it's so many people
what's some of the
reaching
reaction
out
that you're getting.
Well, one person just said, just saw Andrea walk behind you live. LOL.
I was going to ask.
She was working out. The gym is
Bring her
behind.
back. Let's hear her opinion.
Well, actually, funny enough, because she can't not make something, like make a comment. While we were doing our podcast this morning, I was down here. So Sal and I were recording while this was happening, but we did not know. And then about a minute, like I saw the tweet and I was like, oh my God, Sal, stop what you're talking about. The Buffalo Bills just fired Sean McDermott. And I heard from the back room, Andrea go, what? And I was like, dude, I'm on the podcast. She's like, did they fired Sean McDermott? She came out. So yeah, it's a lot of comments like that. My boy Gio said I look good. He likes the shirt. So thanks, Gio. Appreciate you. A lot of people who are chiming in with things like that. Matt, what did that person just say?
Sorry, I'll bring it back up.
Matt, I am sick to my stomach. How are we promoting Beane? Miss after miss in drafting and the reluctance to be aggressive. WTF. I think we need a new voice too, but I wanted Beane gone too. I think this is a very common sentiment. His point is very similar to the point a lot of people are making. If they were going to move on from one, they should move on from both, and it should be a completely new slate. I don't think Terry is willing to do that, though. I don't think Terry was willing to completely start over, and I think he believes, I'm not saying I agree, but I think Terry believes that keeping Brandon here will kind of keep things afloat and that it'll make it an easier transition for whoever the new head coach will ultimately be. Go ahead.
Two words, sustain success. We heard it when Adams was the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres, and obviously that didn't work out, but that was the level they're trying to get to. I've heard Brandon Beane say those words. It's that two thing I always think about is why they don't move on from both is because you're trying to stay above water right now. You're not going to risk going under by completely hauling off everybody and getting rid of Beane and getting rid of McDermott. But that sustained level of success and keeping one, I think, to your point, is where they're coming from and why Terry Pegula won't make such a drastic change.
David just says Terry's a clown. That's his opinion, obviously, but
I mean, I just was reading a tweet from somebody. Terry Pegula strikes again, the dumbest person in sports. That's a comment that somebody said. And there's a lot of people who are,
it's not a lot of Terry Pegula support on social media right now.
And that's, I guess, to that point, at what point does ownership, I mean, I have so many questions.
Wade Phillips. I was very surprised the Bills fired their head coach after a playoff loss. Wade Phillips. That's a funny comment from Wade Phillips, who was back in the day. The same thing ultimately happened on his tenure, so that's funny. Somebody said we're doing an admirable job hosting this. Thank you, Phil. This is freaking chaos, dude. Like my morning was thrown upside down. I was getting ready to try and so we got back.
I think they're poking fun because I think the press release was supposed to say admirable. But
that's right. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you for catching that, Dom. That was good.
Yeah. Number two. It's me.
Yeah, there you go. A lot of people think it's funny that they use the word admirable. It is like, admiral.
So ownership. Does Terry Pegula, obviously he's got the money here, but should he be pulling the strings? I mean, or should he be leaving this up to his people?
Say that again. Sorry, I was scrolling.
The decision-making here, should this be left up to his people, or does ownership genuinely have a say here? Should they have a stake in who is in the front office?
Ownership should have a say, but they should not have very much of a say because it's like stay in your lane, right? Yeah. I don't know what would make a good... I don't know what the right comparison is.
You just made Brandon Beane president of football operations too.
Right.
You essentially kind of promoted him as well. So I think that kind of indicates where they're going to put the responsibility of this. There's influence, but I think that decision ultimately comes down to Beane.
Yeah, I think that Terry Pegula should know who he's about to spend like $10 or $15 million a year on paying, but at the same time, he should not have the final say. And if he is good, if he understands what an owner is supposed to do and should do, he will understand that. There's a lot of people who thought that is why Kevin Adams lasted as long as he did with the Buffalo Sabres, because Kevin Adams kind of gave Terry Pegula a little bit too much of a voice in what they needed to do with their hockey team. Once again, it's the outside perception. I'm not saying that's ultimately what happened. You can't have that happen again. Terry Pegula knows what it takes to make an obscene amount of money. He does not know what it takes to win a Super Bowl and put together a winning football team. Him doing this means he believes Brandon Beane can be that man and can be that guy. That is where there is going to be so much discourse and there is going to be so many people who disagree. It's whether or not you think Brandon Beane is the one who can put this all together and figure this out. And the track record of Brandon Beane over the course of the last several years has not been sterling. Since he drafted Josh Allen, they have not drafted very well. The free agents have not worked very well. There are so many things where the roster just has not been good enough. But maybe Terry thinks it is. Oh, hi, Kristen. Hello.
Hi, Kristen.
Hello,
Hi,
Kristen.
Kristen.
Watching from Cleveland. So all of a sudden, it's funny, the domino effect this has. The Cleveland head coaching job just became that much worse because now the Bills are looking for a coach. There are a lot of people who are going to say the Bills have the most attractive opening in the NFL, new stadium, Josh Allen. And it's mainly Josh Allen, and the new stadium is a little bit of like it's a throw-in, it's a sweetener. It's the extra PTO that you ask for when you're negotiating your contract. That's what that is. So it's a really attractive job, but there's also two other really attractive jobs out there. The Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the fact that they have only had a handful of coaches in their entire team's history and all of the history and the success. So these guys that all of these teams are going to be interviewing are going to need to figure out what do they prioritize the most. They
Great
want a
question.
team that's got – go ahead.
Sorry, Matt. Great question here from Levi. Do you think McDermott sits a year, or does he get hired immediately?
I think he gets hired immediately.
Las Vegas Raiders.
I think Sean McDermott becomes unequivocally the most proven and desired coach that's out there, which is always funny when it's like you're about to fire your head coach. Is the guy who you fire going to immediately be the most sought-after candidate? And if they are, maybe that tells you what you need to know about moving on from them. And it feels like that's what we're dealing with right now. Of like, I think Sean McDermott is going to go get a job somewhere. I think the Raiders is a really likely option.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because you see so many former Bills players, or you see so many former Sabres players go on and win their version of their championship. You know, and I just saw a comment about how Stephon Diggs is getting the last laugh here. Does that say something? Is there a common denominator here? Is this just Billsy? Is this Buffalo? Is it what? Do you know what I'm saying here? Like, it just seems like there is a common thread in both of those organizations. And is it ownership? I don't know. Is it bad hires? Also don't know. What's your analysis?
Go ahead, Dom. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on this.
I think for both of us, just not, it comes down to that final step. You're just not getting over the hump, right? Like the Sabres are in a much different position because now things are starting to get figured out. But when you're talking about the Bills, I think it just comes back to you had some things in place. You had momentum. You had all these very close opportunities to finally break through and get over the hump and get into a Super Bowl. So yeah, I can feel at where Bills fans probably are thinking, man, like this city is cursed. This sports franchises that we have just can't seem to get it done. But at the end of the day, like we heard it from Josh and I heard it from guys in the locker room yesterday, is that more specifically as it pertains to the Bills in this scenario, it's a game of inches. It's a game of one or two plays that make all the difference. And you look back at how close the Bills have, right? Like, let's talk 13 seconds, right? We'll start there. One or two plays changes the outcome. You go back to Kansas City. What if Dalton Kincaid catches that pass in the AFC Championship game last year? Saturday, there's a ton of plays, right? One or two things. What if Josh Allen doesn't fumble at the end of the first half? The Broncos kick a field goal. Matt Prater's 50-yarder at the end of regulation is a game winner, not an overtime sealer. It's just moments like that. It's just one or two things that just collectively, and I get it's frustrating because we sit here, Matt and I have covered this team for 4 years now, together at least. Matt's been obviously doing this longer, but it's just one or two moments that just have piled up. And I can understand why Bills fans probably feel it's like a stroke of bad luck, because it just comes down to those very small margins.
I'm laughing here at Jamie's comment. Dear Bon Jovi, we changed our minds. No, I'm still not on the Bon Jovi train.
Yeah,
I still won't listen to his music.
Bills.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a new $2 billion stadium. They're not going anywhere anytime soon, or else there's going to be a really big new park for people to play in Orchard Park.
Really expensive park.
I really am curious what happens here, because I don't think Terry Pegula makes this decision unless he has some sort of plan in place. Now, that doesn't mean he immediately needs to stick to his plan, and Brandon Beane doesn't need to stick to their plan. But I wonder how much of this is predicated on Joe Brady and Brian Daboll. I think they need to do a very extensive search. I really think that they need to do so many different things. Yeah, I mean, Devin, do you think this is all moved to bring Brady in as head coach and keep Allen and Brady together? I don't think the offense has been good enough to warrant that. I don't think he immediately deserves like a promotion. It's kind of the same thing we're talking about with Brandon Beane. It's like, how did he end up getting a promotion out of all of this? I don't think Joe Brady has done enough to deserve a promotion. I think there were times this year when the offense was so stale. I wonder how much of that was him, and I wonder how much of that was also him trying to appease his boss, and if that was him trying to play a game that Sean McDermott wanted them to play. Maybe Sean McDermott wanted them to throw screen passes every other play because that's what it ultimately felt like, and he wanted them to establish the run. We don't know that dynamic. We'll never know that dynamic. So I think that there's a lot of questions there. Oh my God! If they hired Deion Sanders, perhaps. Oh my God! Shoot me to the moon if they hired Deion Sanders.
Hey, if you do that, just save me a seat on the rocket, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
Deion's dealing with some health issues right now, so I don't know that he's.
Somebody said Stephon Diggs. Yeah, I mean and I do think to Raul's comment, I think watching the Patriots leapfrog you certainly makes this conversation and this decision at least seem understandable. You watched the team that had 4 wins last year and that had the 4th overall pick in 1 year go from that to now very likely the team representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. That happened just like that. Say all you want about the easy schedule, the injuries. That is all nonsense. They're getting to the AFC Championship, something the Bills have done just twice. So they're already doing it once. And they're playing against a backup quarterback, and I feel really strong that they're probably going to win that game. So I think the Patriots having this recent success certainly impacted the decision for the Bills to make a change and try and salvage these last 2 or 3 years of Josh Allen's prime.
Can I just tell you that I'm watching behind you and seeing Andrea come up and down the stairs?
Laundry, yeah.
Okay, but wait.
We're live to 17,000 people, so if you don't want to be on 17,000 people.
No, bring her in. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She's beautiful.
Okay. I don't know. They want to know what you think.
Hi, Andrea.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Hi, Andrea.
Shocked. I'm literally shocked. I gasped.
There are 17,000 people watching. Is there anything you want to say to these people?
19,000.
19,000 people.
Oh my God.
All right, bye.
Bye.
It just reminded me of that one video that floats around the internet every now and then where the guy's on like the BBC and his wife.
Oh,
and children.
yeah.
Hey guys, real quick, I just got a text from Mason. Dom, it's been a pleasure, but your time here at Channel 7's done. Andrea Beauvais has now taken over.
I'm literally just checking my phone to make sure that he didn't actually text.
I actually just got a text that Andrea is the new head coach of the Buffalo Bills. So
she's smart.
Yeah, okay.
Listen, I want to give you guys final thoughts here. Dom, we'll start with you. What do you make of the news today? Sean McDermott out, Brandon now promoted.
Yeah, I'm still shocked, and I'm still processing it all. And this, as Matt said a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, it creates an already very interesting offseason and turns it into a bizarrely fascinating offseason, right? Because we're going to hear from Brandon Beane this week. Josh Allen expected to also talk maybe as well. But really the next time we see the motors turn is going to be end of February when we start seeing the NFL draft combine start up too. So it's going to be a somewhat of a major change for the Buffalo Bills, who still feel like they have all the pieces and you have your franchise quarterback. But this is definitely a pretty massive shift in the way that the outlook of this organization shifts, and especially with the quarterback now who is turning 30, who's your franchise guy. It's going to be a monumental offseason, to say the least.
Brove.
Okay, final thought here. Sean McDermott is a good man. Sean McDermott is a respectable man. Sean McDermott did more to change the culture and outlook of the Buffalo Bills than maybe anybody in franchise history. From what this team was to what they have become, deserves credit and praise. And I think Sean McDermott was the perfect hire at that time. This is a move that shows the Bills are not content with just being a contender. They want to try and win it all. Whether or not you agree with the decision to promote Brandon Beane and move on from Sean McDermott is a completely different conversation. They feel like they have come up short because Sean McDermott has not done enough to get them over the edge. And if that's why you are making this move, I think it's understandable and it's justified because you only have a couple more years with this absolute freak of nature quarterback, Josh Allen, probably being the player that he is. The fact that they have continued to come up short, somebody needed to be held accountable. I am genuinely surprised it is Sean McDermott. I thought it was going to be Brandon Beane. I thought the easier thing to say would be the roster has not been good enough, and you can only do so much as a coaching staff with a roster that is not talented. Clearly, Terry Pagula feels differently. I'm sure Josh Allen might have a say in this also. Not a huge say, but I know Brandon and Josh are very close. I think Sean and Josh were very close, but I think Brandon and Josh are probably closer. I feel bad that it did not work out as a human for Sean McDermott, just because he has given us so much time and respect over the years. I am very confident that he will land on his feet and have success elsewhere. I think he will say nothing but great things about the city of Buffalo and the organization. I am very surprised by this move. I do not know where they go from here, but I'm really interested to find out. And it just made what was already going to be an interesting offseason that much more. This now becomes almost a bigger story than the season itself. You always, when the season ends, I often get a little bit, I don't want to say depressed, but you feel a little bit lost of like, you have this schedule that is built for you. You know what you're doing. You know where you're going. You know when the games are. It makes it very easy to have like this kind of clear, concise outlook of like, okay, this is what your life looks like for the next 25 weeks. The offseason always mixes in a little bit of chaos that is really, really fun to talk about. Now, there isn't a little bit of chaos. There is an insane amount of chaos in this entire offseason. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. But you know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about every February, at the end of February, we go to the NFL Combine, and it's either myself or Dom or whatever, and we talk to Sean McDermott and we talk to Brandon Beane. Now, we're not just talking to the new Bills head coach. We're going to try and find Sean McDermott to get his opinion, because people are going to want to know, how did this go down on your end? And what the heck happened? And where does this go from here? And we're going to be interested in what he has to say and where he lands. And then that's another built-in storyline. What if he goes and gets hired by the Miami Dolphins? Like that's a very feasible option. And all of a sudden you're coaching against Sean. You imagine the fire that this is going to light inside that guy to now beat you. So yeah, I don't want to pronounce your name wrong. Teresa Payton. They fired the wrong man. I think a lot of people feel that today. Mm-hmm. So they better hit a home run with this next hire. Because if they hit a single or a double, it's still not going to be as good as what they've had for the last several years.
Well said, Matt.
I think you guys have hit the nail on the head so many times today, and I'm so grateful that you've been able to kind of break it down in real time. And the reality is we just don't know what happens next. We know how the ladder works based on this new statement that just came out. We know what we want in some capacity, and, not everyone's always going to be happy. But if this makes us a better team, it can't hurt.
You wonder, there are instances where this has been true. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had for a long time, I think Tony Dungy I think that's what it was, Tony Dungy, and then they moved on, and then they hired John Gruden, and they went on to win a Super Bowl. The Golden State Warriors had, Mike Brown as their coach, and then all of a sudden they fire him because they're not able to get to the top. And then they hire Steve Kerr, and then they go on and they win a ton of stuff. Mark just said, Matt, see you on your show tonight. Mark, this all of a sudden became the most interest. I thought today was going to be like a nice, calm, easy day. This all of a sudden became a fascinating day, because I'm also sure the reason sometimes I'm a little scatterbrained, one, is because I'm just a little scatterbrained, but two, I'm trying to figure out where we're going from here. So I'm texting everybody I know with the organization of like, what is happening? Is there a schedule today? Is Brandon Beane talking? Is Terry Pagula talking? Also, there's weather. Also, like, my daughter was with my mom because we just got back from Denver, so I'm trying to figure out how to get her. So there's so many moving parts. But, yeah, this is crazy.
So Taron Johnson just posted SMH and then posted a picture with, I believe it's Trey White and McDermott. When is this picture from? Let's see. 2022. I knew it couldn't have been recent, but the bottom line is that the three of them are together in a picture, followed by those comments, SMH.
Who posted that?
Taron Johnson, yeah. So obviously, again, you're seeing this reaction in real time, and we talked about the division in the locker room and the possibility of different people thinking and feeling different things.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to gather all of that reaction and keep you posted on WKBW.com, our WKBW app. Of course, you can follow Matt and Dom on Instagram and Leading the Charge _Buffalo as well. Guys, appreciate you.
Ed, great job.
Yeah, thank you. I
you.
appreciate it.
Ed, you got thrown into something pretty insane, considering it's like a Monday morning and you were probably getting ready to go home. So great job.
Listen, when news breaks, I'm there, baby.
Hey, Ed, you might have a career in this whole TV thing. I think it might work out for you.
It might be on a podcast in a couple of years, but hey, who knows? Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you, everybody. Hey, there's
everybody.
there's 20,000 people who are watching this and who have been continuously watching this for an hour and a half since we started. So thank you to everybody for watching. I know there's a lot of uncertainty. We will work on trying to get you certainty. But first I need to go make a cup of coffee and jump in the shower.
Go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I got to go be live at noon. So bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.